minute. And actually this dude and this thing, he came to it after tons of dissertation, he came to the same point as it's just a recognition of what you're not is what you are. Yeah, so that to me is the backdoor way in a way. So you see, whatever you can see cannot be you. Yes? Whatever can be seen cannot be you. Yeah? Whatever can be seen cannot perceive. And no matter what, you may not be able to think you're seeing you, but a lot of people are seeing you. So this is being seen, that cannot perceive. So what is the perception? What is the awareness? It's a no-thingness. Yeah? So we've been talking about it the last week, and I like it. It works this way. About the three levels of fear. Did you hear this, Alan? No, all right. Wanted to download. Because when I look at addiction, because that's the group I'm from, when I look at addiction, what was the imperative? The imperative to me was to get out of here. Yeah? I didn't want to be here. I wanted to escape. Yeah? And so, but the trippy thing is, that here, was it really here? Yeah? So in a way, you could say, the here of all here is unmanifest. Yeah? The always, not at all time, never, anywhere, everywhere, whatever you want to call it, that medium, the context, yeah? I would say is the unmanifest here. And then there's the manifest here, which is what's happening now. Yeah? We're constantly in flux. We're a verb. The body is a verb. Everything's verbing, yeah? So everything's manifesting. And so there's a manifest here. And let's just break it down to its simple interpretation. Me, subject, object, yes, I'm having an experience of this day and whatever, all that, the manifest here. But then there's the mental realm, the mental here. Yeah? So the mind interprets the manifest here, yeah, to imply something which is being a someone that's having happen to, yeah. And that someone is, when that's entertained, a whole mental realm opens up. And to me, that's the here I wanted to get out of. I wanted to get out of the mental here. Because the mental here isn't what's happening now. It's about what could have happened, or did happen, and what may happen. It's all riffing by a mind, yeah? It's like giving John Coltrane, hey John, I want you to play, here's the theme for the night, separation. So, he could just riff on separation, and then voila, here's the feeling of it. So here's the mind, and it's presenting a here, but it's like an interpretive here, it's a mental here. And my whole drive since I was young, when something's happened here, the manifest here, which is let's say my father and my grandmother died when I was 9, I went up into the mental here, and I wanted to get out of the mental here, but I took it to be here. Yeah? So I was busily trying to escape what cannot be escaped from because it doesn't exist. But what happens is, if I'm seeking escape from here, it manifests effects in the manifest here. So the funny thing was in my life, when I was trying to get out of here, I was being imprisoned here. I was being thrown in jail here. I was spending 2 years in the drug and alcohol program here. I was constantly under adult supervision here in the manifest here by my wanting to get out of the mental here. Not knowing that the solution to the mental here was right where I was trying to get out of, which was here. It's incredible. It's incredible if you go on for seemingly so long in time. And I was hell-bent on getting out of here, which just imprisoned me in this manifest here. Yeah? Oh, it's trippy. So here I am. The solution to my seeming sickness is just being here, but that's the last place I want to be, because the here that I'm in isn't seen to be this here. It's bookended by past and future. And the past and future is like a giant weather front sitting on the mental here. Yeah? And that's what's always prophesizing storm and not getting what I want and losing what I have, and all that stuff is being prophesized in this little mental weather front, pissing on the mental here, which causes a reaction in the only place manifestation can occur, which is the manifest here. So when something's entertained in the mental realm, it may find manifestation in the manifest here. Yeah? So my wanting to escape from here I got the exact opposite effect and got imprisoned in the manifest self. So my becoming a junkie, which was my idea of being escape, imprisoned me to an addiction to drugs and alcohol. Should be it. So the original disease is my addiction with the idea of being a self. And that disease, dis-ease, produces a need to get relief, which causes all the other addictions to appear in my life. And then I try to deal with those addictions as if they're a cause, but like in recovery, I found out very quickly. In the program of AA, it says the first step, it's right up there. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. So hearing that in this little configured state, I thought the unmanageability was caused by my drinking and doing drugs. Yeah? So I thought when I stopped drinking and doing drugs, everything would become manageable, which wasn't the case. It was the real unmanageability started going off. Yeah? Because it's clear, it says in a clearer way down the road of the book that we have to be convinced of three pertinent ideas, and the first one is that we're alcoholics and we could not manage our own lives. Now that's a totally different statement than what I read in that first step. Yeah? The fact is that my active addiction is managing. Yeah? My active addiction in the manifest here is relying on self, which is an unreliable system. So I am taking this way of thinking and this way of knowing as knowledge. Yeah? But it isn't knowledge, it's self-knowledge, which avails us nothing. It doesn't lead to a freedom from self. It just increases the sense of self. You become more knowledgeable about holes, but you're still falling in holes. It doesn't produce an immunity to falling into holes. You just know about them more. You know? So you can go and tell someone why you're fucked for hours, but you're still fucked, seemingly. Yeah, what's the point? To know that I'm screwed, and yeah, I'm still getting screwed. So, to me, the real addiction is the mind's addiction to selfing. Yeah? It's because of its addiction to selfing that the sense of being a self seems strong. That's the only thing. The selfing cannot produce. The selfing is like a really lousy skit, a really lousy show, like 2.5 Men or something. One of these shows that sucks. And yet people are like addicted to watching it to see how that it may get better or something, you know? It's sort of like that. What gives it its meaning is the audience. It's not really that good. So selfing has no power to produce what it constantly is implying. It cannot produce a self. It can only imply, yes, a self, which then the sense of onness is called. Yeah? So the sense of onness gives the mind the ability to interpret what that onness means, which is, oh, this onness implies me. Me as this. Me as all of this. Yes? Me of the mental realm. So while the manifest here is happening, there's a very small increment called an interpretation of the manifest here by selfing, but that gets totally amplified. So the mind totally amplifies the interpretation and limits its contact with what's happening. Yeah? So you become actually unconscious here, for all intents and purposes. So consciousness, by being conscious of all this baloney, you become inherently unconscious to the fact that all there is that awareness. Yeah? It's incredible. So awareness is used in a way to produce a reality of being unaware. And then when you're unaware, then maybe you want to become aware. So now you play in the game of I'm more conscious and less conscious. But the whole point is, all there is awareness, in a sense. Yeah? So to sort of amplify it and mute it is just a play of mind. Yeah? The point is, what's causing that play to continue is the identification as a self or as a thing. Yeah? This is the anchor where the sense of onness can be claimed to be this. Yeah? And now I take the onness, but then I misconstrue physical feelings implying me. Yeah? And then thoughts as mine implying I'm the thinker. Yeah? So the movement of living gets claimed, and now I'm the one who's alive. And immediately that's like my passport to the mental realm. So now all I'm living in this now isn't a now in a sense. It's a there and then. Yeah? It's the demonstration of the mind's gymnastics, about worrying about tomorrow and then coming back from some past history it's made up, yeah? And just going off like a three-ring circus in this really beautiful empty space called now, yeah? Which its time is pause, yeah? It's a sense of pause. Every moment is the sense of pause, isn't it? Like my friend says, if I ask anyone what time is it, they can't say. Because you have no idea what time is it now. Because it's always now. Yeah? I had a watch once where I had it just said now. So every time you looked at it now. So you'd be like 4 hours in now. Now. You didn't need a battery or anything. Now. What time is it? Now. When am I going to meet you? Now. When did that happen to you? Now. So in the mental realm, obviously, time is a major ingredient, yeah? And time isn't some object that exists outside of us. It's part of the stream of mind, of self in it. How could you be someone unless you were appearing in time? Because all your being someone is validated by you believing you're the doer, and it takes time to do something. It's the only way a doing could ever occur is in time, yeah? That's why the solution, which is timeless, can't be approached by doing. Because there's no approach to it. Because it's not of time, yeah? And it's not located somewhere that it would take time to get to. It's a timeless solution. So, to approach it in time, all the approaching of it in time can do is exhaust your mind to give up that mental realm, which is to me just seeing I'm not that, the idea of being a self, and then that pause becomes more dominant than the partitioning of it into time. You just sense the pause, or you sense the now at every moment in time. Yeah? And it's not you sensing the now, there's just sensing of the now. You sensing of the now is of time. You're the subject then, and you're now sensing the now as if it's an object. There's just sensing of now. So life is happening, not to you. Life is happening, and then that big U-turn is to you. Yeah, a huge U-turn. You! And then, of course, as soon as it's claimed, it's brought up into the mental realm, and now you're living in interpretation. Yeah. So when someone says, "How were you today?" a story's made up. Well, I was really good earlier, and then I got funky, and I'm not feeling great right now. Yeah, it's just a fucking story, isn't it? I mean, people, when I go on trips now, I come back, no one even asks me how it was, because I have no idea, it's over. Let me see how it was. Well, the underlying sense was now. And then there was thousands of little things that appeared and disappeared, but the underlying, overriding, always contextual sense was now, and now is now, and I'd rather just spend time now than telling about a story of there and then. Yeah. It cuts out my social contact. Not having long phone conversations. I'm not. Let's go over the day. So this whole point of this invitation is just the question, who thinks or what thinks is having a life? And then maybe you'll be afraid of losing it, but you actually have it by giving it away in a sense. Yeah? So you don't lose a life. The life you've already lost by interpreting it in a sense. Yeah? Once it's claimed as yours, you've lost its own nature, which is life. It's now your life, which is an interpretation. Yeah? You've given it a flavor of your nature, mental. Yeah. But when you just leave it as life, then it reveals itself. That's the beauty, like in Zen, that highest form of mind is I don't know. Yeah? So in that state of I don't know, you're thrust into a position of finding out here in manifestation. Because everything's manifesting, everything is merging. Yeah? So you can't know anything, because nothing stops to be known. Yeah? To think like you could sort of neuter a piece of the verb and put it on the glass and think you know it. Yeah? Like this guy was talking about enlightenment on this tape. It was pretty good, because he says, and there's no word enlightenment in any scriptures, like Buddhist or Hindu scriptures. That came from the 17th century in the Western culture of like the Enlightenment. Yeah? This whole idea, there's no idea of enlightenment. It's just all fucking made up. And yeah? It's just like the living awakeness, the always so-ness, the fact that's indisputable by the honest that's representing you. Yeah? I would say the honest that presents you. The representing is by the mind. Yeah? The mind represents that presence and makes it a story with past and future and predominant themes. Yeah? Look at your thought system. Every thought has an ingredient of time in it. Yeah? And when the thought system, how does the thought system present us? It presents us as a body, doesn't it? So if you're listening to K. Mary or K. Paul all day, your attention and interest is sort of wedded to that station, what's going to come over you sooner or later, probably very soon, is a sense of being a body, because the thought system presents us as a body. You can't think about this. When the mind thinks about you in the past, how does it think about you as a body, doesn't it? When you're worrying about you, what's going to happen to you in the future, maybe next week, what does that you represent in the thought system? A body. Yeah. Your thought system, the thought system presents you as a body. And if you're having 3,000 thoughts a day, some people say there's 70,000 thoughts a day, others have different takes, but let's say 3,000 thoughts, it's sort of like, and it was almost like a subliminal record you'd be listening to all day, like listening to like AC/DC and it's Satanist, he's playing it the other way. I, me, my, all day. I mean, it would probably be pretty easy for the mind to jump into that groove and get into that same old. 3,000 thoughts held as yours, and the you're that is the thinker of the thought is a body. Yeah. 3,000 every day. It's sort of like a tattoo. Every day. It's not an ink tattoo, it's henna. But if it's applied constantly, it will seem like it's ink. Yeah. That's what selfing is. It's a very incessant verb because there is no noun. It can't make up a noun, so it implies it by a lot of verbing. So all the thoughts are about me or about you, relationship to me, or a world in relationship to me. And this point I'm looking at gives everything all the meaning it has. And then all those meanings come back to me as if they're solid and real outside of me. That thing's fucking with me, or that's doing this. But you never see your role in it all. Like the projection comes before the perception. The mind projects, and then it's perceived as if it's solid and real outside of itself. It's a little parlor trick, but it's projection of mind. Mind is dreaming, and then from the dreamt object position, it looks like the dream's happening to me, but the mind's actually dreaming. Like Ramana Maharshi said once, he says, all right, a lot of people get this. They're in a movie, and they see life as unreal, so they're watching the life going by on the screen. And they have a real sense it's unreal, a real clear sense. But they're taking themselves to be real watching the movie. Yeah? He says it's bigger than that. The feeling of being you, realizing something's unreal, is also the movie. That, in a sense, the sense of being you never escapes the circle of the dream. It can never dream itself out of the dream. Self can't get out of self. Yeah? A product of a mental process cannot escape the process that made it. It's just impossible. Yeah? So selfing only appears in this sort of addition, Addition number 7 on earth or whatever. In this addition, self is appearing. Self can't transcend what it's appearing in because it's not real what it's appearing in, It's appearing in a mental realm that's sort of placed upon the manifest realm, So the mental realm, it's all about you. The manifest realm, it's really not about you at all, if you look at it, A day doesn't give a shit about you, does it? Not too much. When animals see me, they're not saying, oh, hey, Paul, the trees aren't recognizing me as an individual Paul with the whole story, are they? Probably not, But to me, everything's looked at from self-centeredness, so I think it's all about me. Are you that me that it's all about? If you're not that me that that's all about, then it's going to be all about something, but maybe that something will be nothing. So it'll be all about no thing, and a little bit of that flavor into your relationship position with things is a really nice little spice, nice little leavening. It allows you to travel lighter here. Yeah. I mean, how could light not allow you to travel lighter? An introduction or an insertion of light, how is that not going to be able to allow you to travel lighter here? What's the heaviest thing? How could this is heavy, to be identified as this is quite a heavy situation. Yeah. So you hear the birds, and yet there's no one hearing it. It's a nice way to go. So there's the hearing of the birds, super clean. Yeah, no insertion of much interpretation, just an event. Oh, another event, another event, another event, another event, another event, another event. Not with all the emphasis on all the additions and subtractions of mind, but just the event itself, because the event itself screams the no-thingness of it all. Yeah? By being rooted in this manifest here, you sense the unmanifest here. You sense the presence of what's truly so. I would say is a flavor of awareness, whatever that is. But I would just like to say it's no-thingness in a way. You can't put a finger on it, you can't see it, taste it, touch it, but its presence is unrelenting in a way. But the modality of mind is its aperture is fixed on seeing things from an idea of being a thing. It can cloud over that contextual seeing of no-thingness. Yeah? It's not a visual seeing, but in a sense you're living all day seeing nothing. Really. The seeing nothing is the ever-present condition all day. It doesn't take any time to see nothing, because it's not located in distance, and you have to look a little for a minute to see it, or a second. It's a timeless seeing, and it never turns off. It's like mind. It's like that third eye, like Jesus says. If the eye be single, the body will be full of light. Yeah? I don't think it's like, all right, let's pop this eye and just move this one up here, No, it's just a view, let's say. If there's that sense of no-thingness, that view fills one with light, so to speak. Yeah? So seeing nothing is the ever-present condition, and then in that there's looking for something. In our little interpretive realm here of mind. Yeah? So in the mind, I'm looking for something, and St. Francis would say, what you're looking for is what's looking, which is seeing nothing, really. Yeah. But usually when people say, all right, what's looking is what I'm looking for, they think it's you. It's me. I'm looking for me. No, that's what's looking, is me. I mean, that's the you that's looking for. What's looking isn't a who's looking, it's a what's looking. I would say that's the seeing nothing. And it's being demonstrated every second of your day. Yeah. The day is totally brought to me by seeing nothing. Yeah. All the looking for something is always rooted, and no matter how much something you get, it's going to lead you to nothing sooner or later. Why not just start at nothing? You know what I mean? You're going to end up there. All the somethings are going to add up to nothing. So I don't know. I just look at the mind had trouble with it because it's conditioned to look at things from an idea of a thing. It doesn't recognize verbs well. If there's a verb, it implies a noun did it. It has a very fixated way of seeing this place. Right? It's a form of looking, I think, called self-centeredness, which is like a form of blindness to the seeing. Yeah? But if the mind can entertain, it's not that noun. Yeah, it will. Its ability to see may get a little bit adjusted. Where it will start the emphasis will be on seeing nothing. So it's the same thing like looking at something, but it's not a something you're looking at. So it's seeing nothing. But it's the same feeling as when you look at something, because that's just an interpretation of the seeing nothing. So I can't stop looking at something, but I can actually entertain I'm not the one who's looking at something. It's not Paul that's looking at something. And so instead of having to give up looking at thousands of somethings, I just give up the looker, in a way, question it at least. And then in that, when the looker drops out, then the seeing nothing can be emphasized. The mind just shifts or recalibrates and now starts seeing nothing. To me, that's the sense of being present or honest, yeah? So now, instead of taking the honest to be you, there's just awareness of honest, let's say. There's no you that's aware of it, and there's no you that could be unaware of it in time, yeah? There's none of that you. There's just an immediacy of the honest. And then you're letting on that constantly they're seeing nothing. So all day while I'm looking at tons of things, the flavor of all the looking at things is seeing nothing. Yeah. So you get a flavor as you're traveling, because you're not going to stop looking at things. We're here, we're action figures, yeah. We're running around on the little game board of life and running into things and whatever. But if there's a sense of what's always happening, when no matter who or what is looking, it's what you're looking for. Yeah? But it can't be seen from the view of you as the subject looking at something. It can't be that subject-object relationship. That's like the form of blindness. If I'm not the subject, then the seeing becomes obvious. Yeah? So now your attention leaves the particulars and starts sensing the context. Yeah? You ever see like Oriental art and stuff? They usually have a very minimal picture, let's say a tree with 5 or 8 leaves and a lot of space. They're trying to imply the contextual view, yeah? Where our mind tends to go like if there's a blackboard and there was one chalk mark on it, your mind would go to that chalk mark. It wouldn't sense the space of the blackness. It would go right to the particular. It's like the training of the conditional mind. This is more about when that emphasis from the particulars goes, what happens? It's like your lens opens up more. And then while the lens opens up, there's still things appearing in it, but there's a seeing of the space more. Not a visual seeing of it, yeah? It's a sense-felt seeing. So here the mind likes to concentrate and focus. This is more like an opening. And what focuses the mind is the selfing. Selfing is like that aperture lock, yeah? So now everything is seen as how it pertains to me, which is a very tunnel vision, yeah? A form of blindness. If I'm not that, and so, like if someone's in the other room here, I use this a lot, and I'm interested in them biblically, like I'd like to have sex with them, that's it. But I'm afraid of being rejected, so I don't really ask them out. But I'm hoping, they're in the other room, I know, I'm hoping they're going to say something about me, so I can get an idea if they like me or not. Of course, they could be talking about millions of other people, but self-centeredness thinks they're definitely going to be talking about me. So I'm sitting here, and I'm supposed to be doing this talk, but my attention is in the other room. And so someone says, hey, Paul, you're supposed to be here. I go, I agree with them, but I can't. My attention's there. So then someone throws a book and says, how to lose attention or lose interest in a conversation in another room. I page through it, and it doesn't make much of an impact. My interest and attention. Then the lady finally says something, I'm really, and she starts talking about Matt, and my name is Paul. What happens? My interest and attention immediately gets dismissed from that conversation, doesn't it? I don't have to take a workshop. I don't have to read any books. As soon as it's not about me, I lose interest in it. That's exactly what it's like with the selfing. If you get entertained that you're not the thinker, or whatever you want to say it, you're not that, which is being implied by all that activity, your interest and attention leaves it. Now, interest, and it doesn't have to go to anything again. It can just say a no-thingness. Yeah? So now your interest and attention, instead of being totally magnified on a thing, you, gets released from being so consumed with you, and of course it opens up, yeah? It has plenty of interest and attention to pay all the things during a day, but now it's starting to sense the no-thingness, yeah? That's what it's like. So the camera goes, whoosh, the emphasis shifts from thing, you, being the thinker, You being the feeler, your body, your time, your this, your girlfriend, all that, yes. And it opens up, and now the emphasis is more on the space. Yeah? So while life is happening, there's plenty enough interest to deal with what's happening on a day on a life's terms, a life on life's terms. Plenty of interest and attention. But the context that was going unnoticed when there was all this obsession is now being honored in a sense. It's being entertained. Yeah? So now you're living, like Jesus used to say, supposedly anyway, what is it? You're something in the world, but you're not of it. Yeah? So you're living seemingly in the world, but you're not of the world. That would be the sense in a way. You're living in the world, things and this and that, but the sense is of not of the world. Yeah? The no-thingness. But I believe the lever is the idea of being a self, because if there's an identification of self and you start entertaining nothing, your mind will make it something. It'll make it a concept, it'll make it an idea, and it'll probably fasten it into a progressive process, path, achievement, goal-oriented event. Yes? Because it has to have time in it. So this thing is that you can neuter that activity of claiming, like, I'm not that, and then the emphasis shifts, yes? It opens up from thingness into no-thingness. And of course, it demonstrates in where? The manifest here. And it doesn't need to demonstrate in the unmanifest here, in the mental here, because it's the antidote to the mental here. Because now you have a sense of what's happening, and you can tell what's not happening. All that confusion about, if you're up the ass of self, yeah, in the realm of what's not happening, there's no way you can tell the difference between what's happening and what's not happening. To us, up here, what's not happening is what's happening. Yeah? I'm worried about next week now, and so the worry about next week is happening. It's overriding what's happening. Yeah? But all of that activity is actually based on what's not happening next week. Yeah? So there's just a much clearer night when you're present or seemingly aware here. It gives you the antidote or the immunity of what's not happening because you see it as not happening. So all of its effects are brought to you by you believing that it's happening. Those effects, that's the weird thing. When you're up in that head, into the mental here, you're fighting all this fear and worry and anxiety and regret and resentment about what's not happening. But that fight, the skirmish appears in the manifest here. This produces effects here. Yeah. Like I was saying, I was trying to get out of here at all costs, and I was being imprisoned in the manifest here every freaking week. And so, if you looked at the manifest, my wanting to get out brought me in. Yeah. So my incessant need to get out brought me constantly into institutions and jails and stuff like that. You can't escape the dualistic construct. So when I'm thinking of getting out, I'm getting in a lot of ways. Yeah? So getting out of self is actually being in self. That fucking bit me on the ass. I spent a lot of time trying to get out of self. And not just through drugs, through spiritual practices and everything like that. And in fact, all it was the activity of being in self. When I let things be as real as they wanted to be, when I let the mental realm be as real as it wanted to be, it showed itself to be unreal. When I was trying to make it unreal, I gave it a reality here, in the manifest here. Because it had the biggest effect of anything in this manifest place. Then what's not happening just demonstrated the biggest effects through my life in what was happening. What's not happening. My addiction to what's not happening was the biggest influence, bigger than any God or anything else. It overrode everything that was happening. What's not happening. The mental realm was the dominant realm. Yeah? The unmanifest here was never noticed. I took the unmanifest here to be truly nothing, and the last place I wanted to be was in the here. So this truly always boils down to You can't get out of an imaginary problem. It's impossible. And all the solutions to get out of it become the problem. The activity or the manifestation of what we would call a problem are the solutions to get out of a mental problem. Yeah? They become the problem. Just like my solution to my discomfort caused by alcoholism, yeah, became a big, huge problem. My solution, the body is still suffering the effects of that solution 23 years ago. More than that, yeah. I told that story last night. This is what happened to me. When I was out there, this is how the mind worked. Every day, for every week, every month, every year, for years. So I had a court date, yeah? And I was afraid if I went to the court date, I was going to go to jail. Because a lot of times I did go to court dates and I ended up in jail. So it seemed to be a valid fear. So I had this court date. I was scared I'd go to jail if I went. So I asked my Greek oracle up here. I relied on this system called Selfing, which is totally unreliable. I said, "Oh, great one. I dismiss all your failures in the past. Tell me what to do now." And it said, "Don't go to court." Oh, I had instantaneous relief come over me. That fear of next Tuesday was taken away like that. I just won't go to court. So Tuesday rolled by and the solution was still working. I was drinking at home and I was all those fucking jamokes, sweating it out in the courtroom. I'm sitting here. Oh, yes. One of my great ideas. Then 2 days later, I'm driving my girlfriend's car, and the police pull me over. And the guy comes up to the car and says, "Can I see your registration license?" And I had one at the time, which was unusual. I handed him the registration license, and it always flips me out how long they stay in the vehicle. They go in there for like 20 minutes or something. I don't know what they're looking at. I mean, I can't have that long of a history. So then they come back and knock on the window, and then when they ask you this, when they say this, you know you're going away. They say, "Mr. Hedman, will you please step out of the car?" So now I throw a little tantrum, because I don't feel like I deserve it. It says it beautifully in that book. You'll make decisions based on self. They'll set up trains of circumstances that will bring you misfortune that you feel you don't deserve. I thought I didn't deserve this. I wasn't doing drugs. I hadn't done anything. But I had a broken taillight on the car. So I said, "Why are you arresting me?" He says, "Well, there's a bench warrant out for your arrest." I said, "What's a bench warrant?" I had no idea. "Oh, it's issued when you miss a court date." So this is what the mind that was navigating life with me, what it did with a fear of going to jail, which the court date inferred, yeah? What it produced was, I'm in jail and I have 2 court dates now, yeah? So I had no jail and no court. I had 1 court date and no jail. Now I follow this mind, I'm in jail and I have 2 court dates. This was just one moment in one day of many, many days. This is called living on the bottom, we call it, in recovery. I mean, how are you going to get out of that system with that system? I don't care if the self is presented in spiritual garb or in junkie garb. It's still unreliable, yes? It's taking its cues from the mental realm, yeah, which blinds it to the manifest realm, and it has no idea of the unmanifest, none whatsoever. And the unmanifest, if you turn it around, you would think the unmanifest has the most influence. The manifest is its form of expression, and in the mental realm is just a small activity in the form of expression. But flipping it over, the mental realm becomes dominant, the manifest realm becomes manifesting it. And seeing the expression of the non-manifest is very rarely entertained at all. Yeah? What makes it this way, in a sense, I believe, is the identification as a self. That's what puts the mental realm on top of the others, in a way. And there's no others, obviously. It's just a picture. But to have it, if I'm not that idea of self, it gets more appropriate, yes? Now, I see the manifest realm as my antidote to what's not happening, because it's actually happening, yeah? I don't have to study esoteric scriptures to see this wall and these paintings on it, yeah? I don't have to read a giant dissertation to feel the temperature of the body. Yeah? It's just obvious. And so when that obviousness becomes obvious, it's an antidote to what's not happening, because what's not happening is not happening. It's not. It's being thought about. And therefore, the manifest becomes like the access point to the unmanifest, because the unmanifest is the context of all the content. Yeah? So, being here, which was the last place I wanted to be in the mental realm, is the access point to the awareness of what's not here, in a sense. Not in what's not happening, what's always happening, but it's no thingness. Yeah? So now the manifest gets brighter, entertaining the non-manifest. The manifest gets darker when entertaining the mental realm. It gets incredibly heavy and bleak in some ways, and there's no bleakness or heaviness to be found. It's just made up. Yes? A lot of the time. But if this goes like this, then the unmanifest lightens the manifest. You travel lighter through the manifest. The mental realm causes a traveling heavy through the manifest. And like Jesus says, you can't serve two masters at the same time. So, if the mental realm is being served, all the faith that is a potential of mind produces anxiety. If the unmanifest here is entertained, yes, that faith in that produces an ease and comfort now. There's a dualistic traveling here. It's either heavy or light, and then there's thousands of degrees. But what best producer of light than light itself? Not a sort of a contraption of how to deal with what's undealable, the mental realm, and learning how to, therapize it like that, but just allowing light to become more obvious or evident in the manifest. Instead of trying to get artificial light in that dark realm of mind and trying to know why you're fucked, but you're still fucked. Yeah. Who wants to know? It's like living in a dark room. If we were in here and the lights were off and it was nighttime, we'd have a lot of problems. You couldn't find the bathroom. Because you haven't been here before. I'd run into a chair, or I'd step on someone's toes, and all this stuff would ensue from the darkness. What we do is we just hunker down in it. We just get knee pads, so when I hit a thing, it won't hurt so much. People start becoming like entrepreneurs. They sell maps to the bathroom. I was here once when I saw it. If you make a left there and a right there, and you'll be there, but plan ahead. It may take about 2 hours. All this, and then okay, sure. Instead of just turning on the switch. As soon as there's light, where are the problems? The problems are a distortion, a perceptual distortion based on a seeming reality of darkness. That's all it is, in a sense, yeah? You are the light. But not as a self. As a self, you'll be light if you do something light, and then you'll be heavy if you stop doing that light thing. And then that's not light. Light is uninterrupted, undisturbed. It's not circumstantial or conditional. Yeah? If you pull a shade and no light comes in there, is there no light? No. If you pull the shade up, does the light take any time to get into the room? So how real is the darkness? It's imaginary, isn't it? But up here, the darkness becomes the form of light. We live in a dark way of thinking I know and wanting to be right about it. There's no finding out in the mental realm. It's all about I already know already. I know. On the manifest realm, like bolstered by the unmanifest, it's finding out. That's like living. It's sort of like when you were a kid. You're open to finding out, yeah? You'd run around, turn a corner, and oh wow. You'd always be like open and alert to what was happening. Now I know today I'm going to go see Paul, that fucker, and I know, and he'll ask me to buy a shirt and something, and when's someone else coming? I got to see somebody else. Whatever. I know, I've heard this all before. That would be like if you apply that to eating, fuck it, why go to a restaurant tonight? Oh, I know, I've eaten already. I've been eating for 50 years, so I know, fuck it. Just intravenously give it to me. Try the eggplant parmesan. I know eggplant parmesan. I just knew super late, fuck it, I had that too. I know. But you get fed by the food, yes? In the same way, in a sense, this is a way of being fed. Yeah? A sort of inference or a sense of what can't be seen here, so that it can sort of like leak into the manifest, yeah? Its influence. Leak into the manifest. Leak in, to allow what can't be seen, to allow no thing, its influence to become very strong in thingness. Yeah? Instead of mental realm having the huge influence it has. I mean, you can't believe the dominance of mental realm when a thing is being called you. When in the mental realm, the thing is taken to be you, and what enlivens all things is seen as nothing. It's incredible. You know? It's so incredible the way it's set up. It's I, me, mine. It's so self-centered, and then it produces so much dis-ease and constant convoluted solutions to make what's unbearable somewhat bearable, or make it look chic, or... I remember when I was out there, when I came into recovery, like in Narcotics Anonymous, it was still glamorized. Alcoholics, it was how much glamour can you fucking, fawn out of a paper bag in 6th Street. But when you were a junkie, you had the black leather and the tats, and, everyone had it going on. You thought you were so unique until you came into a club and there was like 60 of you in there, all doing the same thing, thinking the same way. Uniqueness really comes to me here from the unmanifest, the influences, because the mental realm has a straitjacket of what it thinks you should want. And when that's removed, you find out. That was one of the big moments I had in this bathtub. I was taking a bath to stay at my friend's house. And I just realized I don't want what I want. I had this ongoing advertising my whole life since I was like 5 or 6 telling me what I want. And I didn't want any of it. You know what I mean? None. It was dismissed like instantaneously. And then it was just thrust into finding out. What is it that I do like? Well, that's cool. So there is a solution to an imaginary problem. See that it's imaginary. Yeah. So there is a solution to self. That it's just a verb. It's not a noun. And I would say you're the animation that's expressing through things, but not a thing. Yeah? And when you stop as a self, something will continue. I would say we're that which continues. When we stop, yeah? Which is the whole little time thing, the whole little sand thing. So the mental realm gets to be just one of many events in the manifest here instead of all there is. Yeah. And then no thingness becomes so dominant in its influence that you see life as a form of expression, not as a drive or a purpose. Yeah. There'll be drives and purposes, but they're just forms of expression. There's nowhere to get to and nothing to get in a way. And yet there'll be tons of moving towards and getting. Any questions? No? Oh.
You thought you were going to get shot.
There was a lull. I didn't jump right on it. I guess I was okay.
But when you speak of nothingness,
You can't speak of the... when I speak of the...
the way I used to see it was sort of a vacuum where nothing exists. And later on, I've been having the inkling that it's perhaps better comprehended or viewed as a field of all potentiality. There is nothing in its manifestation, but it's everything in its potentiality. When there is nothing there, anything can be. So it's kind of a emptiness and fullness at the same time.
Yeah. But remember, those are names anyway.
Yeah.
But see, like when I hear something like that, my mind hears it as if it's a thing that is empty and fullness. Because the mind's geared to think a certain way and to know things a certain way. I just see that as selfing. So I don't know what anything is really. I don't have any inclination really to know. It's just an honest that seems to be the imperative. Like this honest.
Well, I saw a movie recently, just a new movie. All my friends have seen it. Really liked it. I did too. It's called Cave of Forgotten Dreams. And it's about a cave recently discovered in France, in which very limited, probably the one motion picture tape, no more entry, because of 30,000 years of pain. In the movie, they refer to another, one of the guys had gone to visit another cave in Australia. And in Australia, they had this, entered the cave, and the Aborigine started touching the wall. He said, why are you touching the wall? Because you know how restricted it is. Here we close caves because people touch the walls. And why are you touching that? He says, I'm not painting. The spirit is. It is. That caught my attention there. I'm doing it. Just as you said. Something behind all this.
The funny thing is, let's just look at the body in a sense. Now,